By now, most of you are familiar with this house. This is the same house David Anthony Burke, also known as David D4vd, was living in. This could also be the house where Celeste Rivas Hernandez might have been murdered in. This video is just to present information for any of you who are interested in the case. We're going to be doing a quick analysis of a few pictures, a video walking down the street so you can get a sense of what the street is like. That's going to give you some perspective on what might have happened on the day of. But let's break down this picture really quickly. This is the front of the house. If you pay close attention, if you can rewind it a little bit, there is a ring camera in the front of the house. There's a couple of cameras. This is a map of LA, specifically the area where the house is in. Now, the reports are saying that's a house in the Hollywood Hills. That's correct. It is in the Hollywood Hills. But when you don't live in the area, you're not going to exactly know what that means. The Hollywood Hills, if you pay close attention to the map, that is Beverly Hills right there, right? You got West Hollywood right there to the right, and then you got the David house. So all these little pockets, these little cities, they're all connected. It's all Los Angeles. We're going to do a quick analysis of some pictures, some videos. This is just so you can get a sense of what the house is like. This is the path the car probably took when they were looking for parking. So that was Doheny Place down to Doheny Drive. And then this is Bluebird. They found a spot here. The person parked the car and probably walked back. All right, they might have done a couple of laps, but they parked the car there and walked back to the house here on Doheny Place. I'm not going to give you the exact address, but you got the coordinates there. David doesn't live there anymore. But this is the actual street, Doheny Place. The former David house is to the right. That is a BMW that is not a Tesla. But there is no parking here on the right side. Everybody would park on the left side. Usually this street would be full of parked cars. Right now, nobody's parked on the street. I was walking in the area. I talked to a few people. They're all avoiding the subject. If you look closely, that is an image of David's actual Tesla. When Google was driving around mapping the area, that was an image of the actual Tesla. If you look at the floor, you'll see 3 little concentrated areas with broken glass. Those are candles. But the houses to the right, there was a ring camera. There's a little gate there. There's a lot to look here. There is no parking on the right side, so everybody parks on the left. Just by looking here at the video, you can pause it if you want. But this is where the other image of David's Tesla was. So this is the Tesla when it was parked in front of the house when Google was driving around doing the mapping. That's the actual Tesla when they found the car. It was in worse condition. That's the glass on the floor from the candles that people set for Celeste. But there is, if you break down what you're looking at right now, that is a ring camera in the front of the house. There's 2 cameras that are facing those 3 garages. There's one facing to the right, one facing to the left. If you look at the house here, there is a gate. There is a camera up there that's facing right. There's another camera back on the other corner of the house. It's facing left. Cameras can do amazing things. They can see a lot of things. But in reality, if it's bad conditions, if it's nighttime, if someone's wearing a hoodie, or even if the owner of the cameras hasn't set to a low resolution, it's not going to get a great picture. We can only imagine what the camera was actually able to capture. Everybody's hoping that Tesla has some video. This street here is usually full of parked cars. If you look now, there's almost nobody parked there. I think people are avoiding parking there either because they got bad vibes, or the locals, the residents, do not acknowledge what happened there. They're trying to avoid it. I don't blame them. I wasn't trying to pester anybody. So when I would bring it up and they would pretend not to know what I was talking about, I would leave them alone. I talked to several people. They all avoided it, so there was one person that gave me some information, but we'll get into that later. This is Doheny. We were on Doheny Place. Now we're walking on Doheny Drive. When I was walking on the street, there wasn't a lot of cars. When I first got there, there was more traffic. But when I was doing the filming, the traffic quieted down a little bit. So most of these cars right now, there's a lot of people working. There was people moving out of one of these homes. I don't know if it's related to what happened, but it's pretty quiet right now. Usually this street is super busy. This is Doheny Drive, and this is the street the person who was driving the Tesla was probably on. I've lived in areas where parking is an issue, and I've gone through it 1,000 times where I'm looking for parking, but 9 times out of 10, you're not going to find it next to you. So you just drive around in circles. So that was Doheny Place. The person probably drove to Doheny Drive, which is what we're on right now, right here, and they made a right. And this is Bluebird. That's Bluebird. This is where the Tesla was towed. This is where the people were complaining about the car being parked for days. Some reports are saying that it was probably parked for a couple of weeks. I lived in areas where if you park the car for more than one day and someone's in front of someone's house, they're calling the city the next day and the city comes out. They stripe your tire, and if you've been there for a couple of days, they'll start giving you tickets and they'll tell you. These are million-dollar homes. The reports say that the Tesla was pretty beat up, pretty dirty. I can't imagine that it was there for more than a couple of days. It was probably there less than a week. But this is where they found the car. When I first got here, there was a ton of traffic. This is Bluebird. David probably drove around here looking for parking all the time. So Bluebird becomes Flicker, which is a little further up. But then, as soon as you go up that street, it turns into Doheny Drive again. It just goes in a loop. It's just a quick loop. That is where the actual Tesla was found. That's the actual Tesla. This is the street Bluebird. The car was sitting there for days and it was starting to smell. People were complaining about how it looked. The city towed it, and then the tow truck company. Then complained about the smell and the cops showed up. But this is where they found the car. This is where the person left the car. So they left the car, and they most likely walked back to the house. You can speculate 1,000 things could have happened. If you listen to that, someone has a security camera that says that they're recording, I guarantee you all these neighbors are setting up cameras in front of their house now, because it must be scary to think that a young lady lost her life and she was in a trunk for several days. But this person, whoever did it, whoever left the body in the car, and this is the pathway to walk down Bluebird. It's eerie, there's no cars right now, but usually this street is super busy, and there's one pedestrian walked in their dog. A lot of the vehicles that I did see were people were, this house, I don't know if they're selling it or if they're renting it, but someone was moving out. I think they're remodeling it. This is Doheny Drive. So one of the reasons why a lot of people are confused about this whole thing is because when the first reports came out, they were saying Doheny Drive. The address was reported as Doheny Drive. Some of the reporters were actually in front of one of these houses, which was not the correct house. It's actually on Doheny Place. That's Doheny Place right there. On Google Maps, it doesn't show up as Doheny Place. It shows up as Vireo Drive, which is not correct. I talked to a few people, and one of them was pretending not to know what I was talking about. The guy, he was very polite. We were talking for a few minutes, and he was telling me that I might have been confused. The house that I was looking for was actually up the hill. I don't blame him. He was very polite, but he was clearly trying to tell me that this wasn't the area next to the house. This is another area where you could park your car. There's tons of spots here right now, but I guarantee you on a regular day, how the street is full of cars. We're going to redo the whole video all over again, just so you can get a good sense of what everything looks like, what everything feels like. This time it's going to have no cuts. These are the streets that David and the other people that would drive the car would drive around. So it's Bluebird, it's Flicker, it's Doheny Drive. There's not a lot of parking in this area, so that's why they would park there. This is Bluebird. This is where the car was towed. This is where the car was parked for at least a few days with Celeste in it. In September of 2025, the Los Angeles County Medical Examiner's Office opened case number 2025-14252. The case involved the remains of 15-year-old Celeste Rivas Hernandez, a teenager who had been reported missing more than a year earlier. Celeste disappeared from her hometown of Lake Elsinore in April 2024. For months, her family and investigators searched, but answers never came until her body was discovered on September 8, 2025. The discovery was made in an unusual and troubling location, the front trunk of an impounded Tesla at a tow yard in Hollywood. Staff at the facility noticed an odor coming from the vehicle, which led to the body being found. The car itself was registered to the musician known as David, who at the time was away on tour. This connection drew public attention, though authorities have not confirmed what role, if any, the vehicle's ownership played in the case. The Los Angeles Police Department immediately began investigating the incident as a homicide. The Los Angeles County Medical Examiner assigned the case to Deputy Medical Examiner Dr. Ansel Nam and investigator Karen Tapia. Despite the discovery, the cause of death was officially listed as deferred, a term used when further investigation is required before a determination can be made. By late September, Hernandez's remains were released to her family, allowing them to lay her to rest. But as of October 2025, the case remained open, with unanswered questions about how Celeste's body came to be hidden in the vehicle and what ultimately led to her death. Everybody probably felt safe up until recently. They're probably a little more worried. I was walking around and there wasn't a lot of people on the street, and the few people that were on the street, they didn't want to talk if they did. They were very polite. They didn't want to discuss the situation. So that was Bluebird. This is Doheny Drive. And then from Doheny Drive, we'll do a quick walk through to Do Any Place so you can get a better look at the house. I want you to really look at the front of the house and what the area was like. There's a few things you should really pay attention to. People are talking about the Ring camera, the security cameras, if this took place at night, and if the person was wearing a hoodie, I can definitely imagine that those cameras are not going to be a lot of help. Security cameras, their biggest weakness is bad light, especially at night. And if this happened at night, if they're aware of the cameras or if they're ducking low, it's going to be hard to prove who was in the camera. This is Doheny Place. I've seen a lot of people talking about how they can't find the house or it doesn't look like the other way they thought it would look. That's because Google Maps doesn't give you the correct name of the street. I don't know why it says Vireo Drive on Google Maps, but when you look for the street, when you look for the house, it will guide you to the right place, but it's going to give you a different name. This is the street right here. If you look at the pictures of the crime scene investigation, when they were searching the house and they blocked off the street, you'll actually see this street is blocked off. You'll see the detectives in front of the house. One person did actually talk to me, and they did acknowledge what was going on, but they were kind of vague about it. They were walking on the street, and I just casually brought up how busy the street been lately, and she acknowledged and she said it was. But she didn't want to discuss it, you could tell. There's two things to look at on the left side. You see that gate there. If whoever did this, if they came out of that left side, those cameras, by the way, this is the broken glass. These are most likely candles that someone said for Celeste. There's a Ring camera there. Most Ring cameras face forward. There's two cameras right here in the front. They're facing right and left. They're focused on these garages. There's another camera all the way at the corner of the property, and it's facing right, which is in this direction. But there's a lot of shrubbery and trees and bushes, and there's a lot of things obstructing the view. I don't think they're going to get a lot of information from those cameras unless it happened during the day. There's a camera right above me. You could tell the people in the area are spooked. You got the ring camera there, and then you got the gated door. If the car was parked a little further up, those cameras are probably not going to capture much. There's a camera right above. If that person came out of this gate, I would say none of those cameras probably saw anything. Especially not at night, if there's no lights at night. I've seen videos of the street at night. It's super dark. Your average camera is not going to capture much. If the person's wearing something over their head or their face, they're not going to be able to figure out who did what. Whenever you park your car somewhere, and then you walk home, you then walk back to get the car. David probably did that 1,000 times. If somebody else was using David's car, they probably did the same thing. They would probably walk back and forth on the street. Celeste probably walked on the street a bunch of times. Most of these security cameras are in front of the house, and the outside part of the house doesn't have cameras because there's usually trees, bushes in the way. It's going to be tricky for anybody to see what happened. Pay close attention. There's a lot of bushes there. No one's going to put a camera in their bushes. So we'll do a quick little walk here. These houses are worth millions of dollars, and the people in the area don't feel safe right now, you can tell. I saw a couple of interviews with people saying that they could never imagine this happening here in the area. In reality, it could happen anywhere. It is eerie to see how empty this street is. This is Doheny Drive, and that's Bluebird. Pay attention, because look at all these bushes. This house here is under construction. It's completely unrelated, but look how big the house is. These houses are huge. Most people are focused on their front door and possibly their side entrances. Most people aren't thinking about what you're doing on the street. The car was found on the street, and the person walked around the corner. All the cops need, all the detectives need is one image of a person and their face. There's so many things recording nowadays. You got cameras, rain cameras, the Tesla. It's tricky with these bushes. We must remember that independent journalists and investigators have contributed to the case. If anyone has any information about the case, please contact the LAPD. Thanks for watching. If you can subscribe, like the video, comment. Thank you.